Should we talk a bit about the BBC, Chris? Evergreen topic, of course, but the hook for this is that you've written a piece calling for abolition of the licence fee, shock horror, but do you want to talk us through your argument here and why you think it's such a slam dunk at this point in time?
In most, if not all, of the BBC's World Cup games, at some point the commentator will say, and just a reminder that in order to enjoy watching this match, you need to pay your TV licence. And there's a little QR code, you can go on there if you're a licence fee evader. And they don't do this with any other programme. They don't do it with Panorama or Question Time. And that's because the people who are not paying the licence fee, who secretly watch the BBC, even those who claim they never watch the BBC, will be watching the BBC when the World Cup's on. Or the largest proportion of them will be watching the World Cup. So it's targeted kind of threats, basically. Not even threats. I mean, I doubt anybody's actually clicking on the QR code. But it's targeted. It's a targeted message to several million people now. There's non-payment licence fee has gone up from 5% about 10 years ago to 12.5% now. So that's 1 in 8 households who we think have a TV at least are not paying their TV license. Now, some of those, a growing number of maybe younger people in particular, genuinely won't watch any live broadcasts. And it's not just the BBC, it's any live broadcast, and they won't use the iPlayer. But not that many of them, especially when the World Cup's on. That number clearly is going up, and I think it's going to go up and up and up. And I think as a critical friend of the BBC...
That's how I'd sum you up.
Well, I think the BBC genuinely needs to be a bit more optimistic about getting people to voluntarily pay for its programming, right? It says that it's the world's greatest broadcaster and they're very proud of all this stuff, but they fight tooth and nail against a subscription model. They wouldn't mind it being paid out of tax, and they're quite happy with the licence fee. But few people are paying the licence fee. They're having to make £500 million worth of cuts. I think that the BBC should have the courage and convictions and introduce a Netflix-style subscription model, which would have the effect of stopping the people who are not currently paying the licence fee, millions of people. That would stop them from watching it. But the beauty of it would be you make it global. I know they've already got the BritBox, but that's nowhere near as ambitious as it needs to be. You need to have the whole BBC archive eventually. A lot of this stuff will be already hived out to different networks and so on. So it'll take a while to pull everything onto the BBC website. But the aim should be to have everything the BBC's ever made only on the iPlayer, whatever you want to call it, the BBC, the Netflix equivalent of BBC. That's available all around the world. BritBox has currently got 4 million subscribers. BBC Commercial, which has the BritBox and other stuff, it makes £2 billion a year, which is a third of the BBC's total revenue. They could wrap that right up. Netflix has well over 300 million subscribers worldwide. Surely there are enough people just in the English-speaking world who are affectionate about the BBC, want to access that fantastic archive, let alone everything else. Only Fools and Horses and 40 Towers and Black and all these kind of things. You could get, that's what they need to be working towards. And I honestly think they could be making more money than they do now. At the moment, they're making less and less money because people are evading the licence fee. There is very little chance of people being caught. If they do get caught, they only get fined roughly the equivalent of 1 year's licence fee anyway. There are loads of like Reddit groups and influencers going, this is how you go about it. You can go to the TV's licensing webpage and declare that you're no longer paying TV licence because you supposedly don't watch live broadcasts. I think this is just going to spiral. I think we could very quickly get to a position of like 1 in 4, 1 in 3 households not paying for the licence fee. At that point, the BBC's traditional objection to having a subscription model, which is basically we don't think that many people would pay for it, which in itself is a justification for getting rid of the licence fee, right? Even forcing people to pay for something they don't want. I think they're actually being too pessimistic on that, Scott. I think if push comes to shove, it's only £15 a month. I recently cancelled TNT Sports because it went from £31 to £34. And I only subscribed to TNT Sports because I wanted the TNT sports coverage because I like listening to Joe Johnson and I didn't like listening to John Virgo. Virgo then went and died, so I could cancel it. But but the point is, I was paying £34 basically for alternative commentary on the snooker. Now, without that, the
sort of thing you would spend your money on.
They've got other stuff. They had Champions League and stuff like that, but basically it's for that reason. They've also got the other snooker events that the BBC doesn't cover. But if the only way for me to watch snooker now, which it is, now that Eurosport haven't got it anymore, is to watch the BBC, I would pay my licence fee just to be able to watch the Triple Crown events on snooker. And other people will have something similar, World Cup, Wimbledon, whatever it may be, and not just sport either. Lots of people like, I don't know, Line of Duty or EastEnders or whatever. I think there's actually enough on the BBC. Well, not with, I'm not saying it's anywhere near as good as Netflix. It's not, but yeah, at the end of the day, either it's worth it or it's not. If most of the country genuinely don't think it's worth it, we shouldn't be forcing them to pay for it.
Sounds like a slam dunk, Benedict.
Yeah,
what do you think?
it's a tricky one because I agree with Chris. For a start, it's a legacy brand. It's known internationally and it is largely trading off past glories, if we're being honest. It used to be a gold standard. It's not anymore. And that, I think, is partly why they would never go for the movement towards a subscription model, because in order to get it up to that level would require rather a lot of hard work. And it would require a lot of things that are frankly bollocks to be cut, but that are pet projects or, particularly endearing to people who work at the BBC. A lot of money is wasted on stuff that nobody wants to watch or listen to on the radio, but people at the BBC want to make or listen to this sort of thing. I mean, you just have to listen to Radio 4 and wonder, to yourself, every now and then when you tune back in, who on earth is this for? It's a very small niche audience. And it's not even like it's a fantastic performance of Ibsen and that there is a particularly highbrow audience listening to it, albeit small. It's rubbish. That's the thing. It's stuff that many people at the BBC listen to, stunning and brave. Oh, absolutely magnificent. We're already, doing groundbreaking stuff. And everybody else in the English-speaking world is sat there going, I'd rather pull my eyes out of my own head than actually watch this. Now, if you were to turn around and, in any other sort of walk of life, you'd say, that's a failing company. That's not going to last. You need to do something drastic, otherwise you're going to go under. That's why the BBC would absolutely abhor going towards some sort of subscription fee, because then they'd have to do that and they'd have to cut a lot of the things that they like doing for themselves. I agree with you. They should actually be made to do this, because this is in all of our interests, that what they produce is good content, is whatever it might be, sport, drama. There's a wealth of cultural resources in this country, be it historical, be it the literature, whatever it is you want. And there are lots of people who are actually very talented at writing. And they are all going to the US, ultimately, because that's where the money is, because it's a subscription-based service for people like Netflix, and so they'll pay them more. There's no reason why it should be that we are made to put up with the drudge that we get served. But we will, because they will resist it to the very last minute. And they will use, actually, some very noble reasons why, as one of the reasons why we shouldn't move towards a subscription-based service. That'll be things like the World Service. That'll be things like, attempting to provide an impartial news service, not just in the UK, but around the world. There is a lot of truth to that. But I don't think that means you need a subscription, a license fee. You can pay for that basic stuff out of general taxation and move the rest of it then to a subscription-based stuff. Yeah, I mean, there are ways round this. I think everybody's known that the model is out of date for some time, but the people within the organisation, a bit like the NHS up to a point, I suppose, those are the people that are going to hang on tooth and nail. And I suppose the main thing is, given that it is the state broadcaster, it has not quite the monopoly on broadcasting. What a bad idea this sort of thing is. But if anybody's going to listen to the BBC, they're going to be subjected to lots of people going, that's a terrible idea. We shouldn't do this. Absolutely no. This will be the end of the BBC as you know it. So please write to your MP and say, no, don't do a subscription service. And about 17 people who still listen to Radio 4 will go, oh, absolutely, I will write to my MP, because those are the sort of people who write to their MPs. But so, yes, I agree. It would be wonderful to see, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, but my argument is they're going to have to, because of basically this black market element. We're seeing this in a lot of things we talk about on this show, where politicians are just having to change their mind about certain things because the black market is just out of control. And in this instance, the black market is people evading the license fee, which, as I say, is unbelievably easy to do. Prosecutions have dropped off a cliff. They don't even want to prosecute people because it's a bad look that, like, the number one reason for female imprisonment is not paying the TV license. Right? So they're stuck
getting on the wrong side of the Director General, you get banged up.
A growing number of people are realizing this, and eventually you get to a tipping point where a lot of people are just law-abiding, right? Even if they don't really watch the BBC, it's the law to get a TV license. But as you get more and more people evading it, it reaches a critical mass at which you feel like you're a mug if you're still paying for it. And at that point, you just have a tipping point, and the whole thing could just crumble very quickly.
But it's interesting because this actually goes back to what we were saying about Andy Burnham, which is that stuff is just going to happen to him. He's not going to be able to do anything about this because we're reaching we've not yet reached. Who knows where that point is, the critical moment at which XYZ number of different institutions or systems will just stop working and the money will just run out at some point because nobody will lend to us and rates will just be appalling. And the tax take already isn't big enough to cover the benefits budget as it is, the welfare budget, rather. Businesses are already leaving. At some point, it does all go wrong. The question is, how much risk appetite do our politicians have? Do they understand what risk is? Would be a good start. But actually, how much are they prepared to sit on their hands and wait until the very last second, at which they then turn around to their backbenchers, to the public, and say, this isn't good. We're going to have to do something, and whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. I don't think we've reached that point yet.
Are you an accelerationist, man?
I think it's going to actually be quite slow. Because the thing that they'll do in the meantime is they'll whack up the fines or whatever. They'll give you 10 years imprisonment or something like that. That would be the intermediary step, I'm sure.
The problem is, I do think that that the whole thing is speeding up, but the question is, how much further has it got to go? Are we even going particularly fast right now? It feels
do you want to go faster?
Yes, I'd like to speed run. I would like to speed run it, but I am quite a placid person by and large. So I'm not sure I would use the word accelerationist. I am impatient.
Impatient for disaster.
Yes.
Yeah. I think on this front, as many others, it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. So that feels
No, it does. It never gets better, does it? But it always gets worse.
No, exactly. We'll find out. We'll hit rock bottom eventually.